Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a video that is quite different from what I have been putting out for a while. That's because I've been working on something a little bit bigger and I just don't have as much time. So this is a non-edited, just off-the-cuff video talking about the Sobeck, because I don't really do weapon reviews, because if you're familiar with my content, they are highly edited, well scripted and everything, and weapons are just kind of boring to post like 8 or 10 minute videos on. Like, really, I don't see how you can extend a video like that past 10 minutes, so I just don't really make weapon videos. But I have wanted to make a video covering the Sobeck and all the unique Warframe interactions that it has, because in my opinion, it is the best primary in Warframe if used with the right characters, and that is what we are going to talk about today. You are mostly, well, I'm going to say probably, aware of the Sobeck because of how good it is on Saryn, allowing you to do stuff like that. And yeah, so we're going to start out with her, but don't worry, because besides Saryn, I also have builds for Cyte-09, Garuda, and Zephyr, because these 4 frames are, in my opinion, the best ones to take advantage of just how good this gun is. But what is the Sobeck? Well, the base Sobeck can be bought from the market. It's pretty cheap, doesn't have too crazy build requirements, but there is a Kuva version, which obviously comes with better stats and also the progenitors of any of the progenitor elements, which are really, really good. So I do recommend you go pick up a Kuva Sobeck, get it to rank 5, so then you can adjust the valence bonus on it with a valence override, a vice, or whatever this thing is called, because all of these builds do use different elements. But that is besides the point. If I just bring ourselves with one enemy here, the gun is just a really simple shotgun. Honestly, there's nothing too fancy about it. And if this was just the weapon and if I were to throw on all my crazy Saryn buffs or whatever, yeah, it kills, but we're playing Saryn, so of course it's going to kill. That is not what is really special about this gun though. What is special about it is that it has this mod, Acid Shells. Acid Shells is a part of a larger family of mods where if you look here, it says enemies explode on death, dealing 450 corrosive damage, blah, blah, blah. We don't really care about that. What we do care about is the plus 45% enemy max health in a 15-meter radius. What this means is that when you kill an enemy, and these corrupted heavy gunners over here, they are level 185. These corrupted heavy gunners have 261,000 HP. If I were to kill them, for simplicity's sake, we'll just do a flat 50%. 50% of their health will be sent out in a 15-meter explosion around them, and that is 130,000 damage. But you do start to run into some problems pretty quickly, and that is mainly enemy armor. The 90% damage reduction that a heavy gunner like this has means that their 261,000 HP goes to 2.61 million EHP, and because obviously that doesn't get factored in for the acid shells explosion, you're dealing 10% of their health, and it doesn't really work that good. But, the reason that you will see this weapon paired with frames like Saryn, or Cyte-09, Garuda, or Zephyr, is because all of those frames have special abilities that you can attach to this acid shells explosion to make it deal just an absurdly higher amount of damage. And if you saw, I don't know, 2 minutes ago, so much more damage, in fact, that happens. What was that, 3.1 million right there? Yeah. And also, just to give you a little bit more background on this mod, the explosion, while it is line of sight, getting a kill will re-trigger it. If the explosion on an enemy here kills an enemy over here, it will re-trigger the explosion. So you kind of just chain through entire maps and enemies can't really do anything. It is really broken. So let me break down why this happens. On Saryn in particular, it is because of her third ability, Toxic Lash. What Toxic Lash does, and this is just probably the best weapon buff ability in the game, is it adds an additional hit of damage to your strikes. Now what does that mean? Because it's kind of complicated. If I cast Lash here, you see when I shoot this enemy how there are those damage numbers with the toxin symbol right next to them? Those are the damage instances that are being added by Lash, and they are very, very powerful. One, they scale off a lot of things in a really, really good way. They triple dip on faction mods, it force procs Toxin, it scales off Toxin mods twice. It is just a really, really broken extra hit. But the important thing about this extra hit is that it is actually added on to the Acid Shell's explosion. Because the Acid Shell's explosion is considered another instance of your weapon damage, you will taxi the Toxin Lash dot to every enemy hit by it, which results in all these enemies having Toxin that is now immensely buffed. And when I say immensely buffed, I mean like it is just so ridiculously strong. Like nothing really lives through it. Even if I were to bring these guys to Eximus, you'll see that the difference is non-existent. They all die immediately anyways. And yeah, that's obviously really, really ridiculous. Looking at our Sobeck build, the reason that this happens is because one, faction mods like this will benefit Toxin way more than they normally do. If you're unfamiliar, DOTs like Toxin or Blast and Heat or whatever, they double dip on these faction mods, which means that the actual scaling that a mod like this gives right here is not timesing it by 1.55, but it's timesing it by 1.55 squared, which is actually, I think, like a 131% increase instead of a 55% increase. Yeah, so it is really, really strong, but this 1.55 also multiplies the 45% enemy HP explosion. So you're getting 45% times 1.55. I'm not sure what the math on that is. It's probably somewhere around 70%. I don't know, someone can correct me on that. Otherwise, you're also buffing it with Shotgun Elementalist, as you can see, plus 90% status damage for Slash, Heat, Electricity, Toxin, and like I said before, Toxin mods like Contagious Spread, even if they are combined into something like Viral, because yes, on this build, you do want to use a Cold Progenitor. Even if it's combined into Viral, it will buff the Toxin from Toxic Lash. Don't ask me why, it also double dips on it. Again, just more crazy stuff. Those are the only things that really do buff it though. So things like Galvanized Tail, Savvy, Magnetic Strafe, all the Clip Delegation, all of that is just so we can actually kill enemies. But Acid Shells, Elementalist, Contagious, and the Bane mod are really, really important here. And then Primary Blight to My Arcane is just because it's a side grade, honestly, to using like a base damage mod, but base damage doesn't affect it. And, you know, we have Savvy here. We have 5 elements, so we're already getting like, I don't know, 380% more direct damage. So I feel like getting more critical damage and multi-shot is just really good. Vigilante Supplies just allows us to crit at a higher tier, which is useful. On Saryn, this is a pretty like, I don't know, I'd say endgame type build. We are spamming Shield Gate with Mult, which I understand is not some people's favorite thing to do. So if you don't enjoy doing that, you can definitely change Mult Augmented for Aegis. Throw on Aegis and then choose 2 mods to take off for Vigilante Vigor and Fast Deflection. And then you'll be pretty much immortal. Just make sure you keep catalyzing shields too, because it will like bug out your shield recharge and then you get full shield gates. Yeah, I will probably release a short covering that pretty soon because it is very powerful. But the goal here is to just get the Roar percent, because we are using Roar here, which adds on to the faction mod we have in our Sobeck. So that will multiply our Toxic Lash damage even more, and also add onto the multiplier for the 45% explosion. And then, yeah, it's pretty simple. You do have Venom Dose over here to give you corrosive damage. So on our Sobeck, we have Viral, Magnetic, Corrosive, and Toxin, which is like all of the best elements in the game. Pretty simple though. Survivability, like I said, is shield gating on this particular setup. 45% efficiency means that a single cast of Mult costs 77.5 energy. And over on our Epitaph, if you have 2 Augur mods here, which are combined with Augur Reach on the Saryn build, you can get a full shield gate in a single cast, and you'll be just fine. Honestly, the KPM on this build is so high that enemies don't really shoot you in the first place. The reason I do run high range is so we can spread our spores everywhere. Armor stripping is not necessary. Honestly, you could drop overextended and run more comfort mods like Equilibrium or Primed Flow, but like it's just super overkill damage, and y'all know that I mess with that, so that is what I use. Companion wise for Saryn, a Nautilus is going to be pretty much the staple on every build here, just because Cordon allows you to group enemies, and concerning this is an AoE nuke build, having grouping is nice. Manifold Bond also means that we will be able to trigger this all the time, the 3 status requirement being easily satisfied because we have Viral, Corrosive, Magnetic, Puncture, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Focus School, not really important for any of these in my opinion. Praetos for movement speed, and then just make sure you have those 2 auger mods on your epitaph. But moving over to our next Warframe, we have Cyte-09. Now, he is also really, really good with the Sobeck because he has basically Toxic Lash except any element. And what is a really, really good element? Electric. I know that electric gets so much play these days because everyone just spams it with melee influence, but it is really good on guns too because it just instantly deals damage. It is AoE and it scales off of electric mods that you have on your Sobeck, which is really important because as you can see here, we're running Prime Charge Shell and Shell Shock to scale the damage up. But I do actually need to change our Valence bonus because you don't want to use cold anymore because it'll auto combine. So you can actually choose magnetic and boom, you have electric and magnetic, which is really, really good. But otherwise, the principle is pretty much the same here. There are 2 different ways you can use it, either with shock or with nourish. My preferred build is with nourish to get viral on our Sobeck too. But he has honestly better scaling than Saryn in my opinion. I know that's a crazy take, but Cyte-09 has a lot of benefits that she doesn't have because obviously with his Seek ability, you can just straight shoot enemies through walls. So you can sit in the back of the map and just do this and kill everything through the entire tile and just like not get shot. And the reason I have Nourish on is because when you do this, you will like not, what the fuck did my, yo, horizontal Saryn bugging. Wait, is this even a fucking Panzer? This is Kalimos. Why is horizontal? Okay, whatever. Random side tangent. But yeah, you will have Nourish with Energy Nexus over on the build to passively build you up all that energy. But otherwise, Arcane Crepuscular is really good to run on him because that 3x final critical damage scales with our electric so nicely. And we have invisibility for free because of evade. And this is really easily kept up because when you do have Seek active and you're shooting enemies, like it triggers their heads. So like you'll automatically upkeep it by just having it active. Die please. There we go. 2.4 million, 2.9 million. Pretty damn strong. So yeah, Cyte-09 is pretty similar to Saryn in that they both just add extra hits with their Toxic Lash or Resupply. I do think Cyte-09 is honestly a little bit better because Electric is a better element than Toxin, and also he can do it through entire tile sets and is much safer while doing it. I do have videos on both of these setups, by the way. They will be linked in the cards during their respective segments if you want a more in-depth look on these builds. What I have not talked about though is Garuda with the Garuda Sobeck, but she is also a really good frame with this too because of her 4th ability, Seeking Talons. A consistent thing that you will notice is that anything that adds or guarantees additional hits with acid shells is really, really broken, and the same holds true for Garuda. What happens here when you mark enemies and then kill them is that they will get triggered for a really, really high damage slash proc, and you can obviously use that to your advantage because slash ignores enemy armor, and you just are forcing a bunch of slash. The gun already has a viral on it, and it does a whole lot of damage. This is benefited by Garuda's passive too, which adds 100% multiplicative damage to your entire kit. And they will all just die. It might not be nearly as quick as Cyte-09 or Saryn, but it does scale to level cap. And what you could add in here to make it even better is Zada's Whisper, because Zada's will replicate this damage explosion from acid shells again. But unlike the actual acid shells mod, it will not suffer from damage fall off, which is really, really important. So when we do the same here, yeah, that is a lot better. Zada's low-key kind of carries on this build, but the interaction between the two of them is just like so good. And allows you to kind of just, you know, like Garuda's a super chill frame. She doesn't really like have issues with survivability, and now you can just run around and just like nuke entire groups that are marked with your 4. It is low-key, not even low-key, it is just high-key, really, really strong. The build is super similar, just running viral, base damage arcane. And then over on Garuda herself, I do like to run Blending Talons so you can just tap her 4th and get it in a big radius around you. 13.5 meters, but that's obviously extended because the 15-meter acid shell's explosion range. Blood Forge helps you to ignore the annoying reloads. We do substitute fire rate with arcane acceleration. And then everything here is just making her survivable. The damage here is so ridiculously absurd that you don't really need anything besides comfort. So that is, you know, what I aim for the build to give you. Like that's like 200 slashbacks right there. They're not surviving that. The very last frame on the list though is, I teased this a really long time ago, and I feel low-key bad that I haven't made a video on it yet. But it is Zephyr with the Garuda Sobeck. And this build probably looks a lot different than what you would expect. For one, we're running crit scaling, which, if I didn't mention, Acid Shells doesn't scale off crits or anything like that. And yeah, so let me explain what is going on here. We are using Zadas again. I will cast Funnel Clouds. All right, now after I got my stacks up, yeah, so something kind of ridiculous is going on here. If I get my Funnel Clouds back, 15 million damage right there. Now this may look not that fast or anything, but trust me, this is one of the most broken builds you will probably ever see. In my opinion, the strongest setup damage-wise of any of the builds for a... What? I don't even know what happened there. For a good reason, and it is because Zephyr's tornadoes are kind of, well, not even kind of, they're just like really broken. So Dystopia actually has a really good video on this that I got it from. And what's happening here is that the tornadoes are kind of like Zada's Whispers on crack. When you kill an enemy and they trigger the acid shell's explosion, two things happen. One, Zada's will replicate it, but the tornadoes will replicate it too. But the tornadoes will also replicate the extra damage instance from Zada's. And all of these are carrying over that 45% HP, but they're multiplying with each other. So what that means is that when I shoot the tornado like this, a lot of things are happening. And you might also wonder, how am I getting blast? Well, it's because the actual 45% enemy HP explosion is coded as blast damage, but normally there's no way to ever get blast out of it, except tornadoes will inherit the damage that is dealt most to them, and that causes them to trigger blast on enemies. So after we have the initial damage instance, which tornadoes replicates, the Zada's instance, which tornadoes replicates again, there is blast, which will trigger, and Zada's will replicate the blast. The tornado will also replicate that blast, and then the tornadoes will replicate the blast Zada's replication again, which sounds super fucking confusing, and low-key it is, but it results in you doing over 50,000% of the enemy's HP. And all those things that I just said are only if there is a single enemy in the tornadoes, which, if you've ever played the game, obviously there is going to be way more than one enemy. So when I shoot at a big group like this, if you actually have stacks, you will do so much damage that you don't even get halfway through the loop that I just mentioned. Like, enemies will just die beforehand, so you can't even hit them with the full 50,000 HP. It's honestly ridiculous. Let me know if I should make a full video going over this, because, yeah. But here is the build. Really simple. We just want Zada's with strength. We want high range on the Funnel Clouds tornadoes. And yeah, it is pretty simple. Now, the reason the Sobeck looks like this, though, is because there was another mechanic here that is going on, which you probably aren't familiar with. And that is crit and status inherit. So typically, acid shells cannot crit, it cannot status, or anything. But when you deal damage to the tornadoes, and acid shells deals damage on them, for whatever reason, it will inherit the stats of your primary weapon. So, if you have a 63% critical chance and a 4.8 multiplier and 40% status, acid shells will get those stats too. It's like, this ability is so goddamn broken and confusing. Pretty sure kyaii Oil Corner has a really good video on it. You should go check that out. But yeah, that is what is going on with the Garuda Sobeck on Zephyr. That is what is going on with the Garuda Sobeck on all of these frames. It's low-key my favorite gun in the game, just because acid shells is so ridiculously powerful. Like I said before, Nautilus Prime can be used on everything. And yeah. So, if you enjoyed this look at the Garuda Sobeck, I know this is a lot different from what I normally put out, but it's been like 9 days since I've uploaded, and I just wanted to give you guys something in the meantime while I work on another video. I've also been super busy working for Astacross. If you didn't know, I got hired by him. What are you triggering, Nautilus? But yeah, and even though this is not edited, or well, it's really just not edited in any way, I just hope that you guys, if you like these types of weapon reviews, I can try to sprinkle in 1 or 2 of these a week. Them being off the cuff and not taking 40 hours to make is a big time saver. So yeah, if you like these types of things, let me know and I will continue to do more of them. The highly edited, perfected guides that you know me for are not going anywhere though. The Oraxia update is coming out in 3 days. I will have so much content, gonna cover all the augments, Oraxia, and everything. And I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.